Hello, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to Saints Live with me, Kenzie Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
Well, as ever, we're broadcasting live from St Mary's Stadium ahead of a hugely important fixture between the Saints and Crystal Palace. And Steve, we are in very good company for this one. We're joined by former Saints captain Dean Hammond and former chief sports writer of the Southern Daily Echo, Adam Leach. Adam, welcome back. It's been ages since we've had you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Kenzie. It's good to be back. I don't know what you lot have all been doing. You've been very unlucky since I've been gone, so I'm here to hopefully sprinkle a little bit of magic back into the affairs today.
Oh yeah, hopefully you'll bring a bit of luck. And Dean, good to see you as ever. Have you had a good week?
Very good, Kenzie. Thank you very much, and good to see Adam back. Like I said, hopefully he can bring us some luck today, and we can see a good Southampton win.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it's great to see you both as always. Now, the team news will be coming up in around about 15 minutes' time. We know that Shea Adams is unavailable. Ruben Selles, he's likely to be out until the end or towards the end of the month. Also, Mislav Orsic is not available. Mohamed Salisu is out with a hip injury. But Tino Livramento played for the B team, so he's taken a big step towards his recovery and hopefully a return to the first team soon. Dean, I'm going to start with you and ask, what kind of lineup would you like to see Ruben select this afternoon?
Well, an attacking lineup, an ambitious lineup with the team attempting to win the game with that high press, that energy, that enthusiasm to create chances and score goals. I always think Southampton at their best when they play like that, especially at home. They can compete against most teams when they play like that. So I think there will be changes today, a couple of changes. I'd like to see Stuart Armstrong come back into the team. I always think Southampton play better, are more creative when he's in the team. I think Mara can come into the team because we're looking for goals, and he has come onto the pitch against Man City and scored a very, very good goal. And when he's had opportunities like that, he seems reasonably ruthless and clinical. I think Perraud coming in at left back, I'd like to see a natural left back in the team. I just think it gives the balance. I think it works better. I also think Kyle Walker-Peters is more effective at right back in his natural position. So that would be a positive in terms of the back four, because we know how effective Kyle Walker-Peters is and what an influence he can have on the game. And with Stuart Armstrong playing at that right-hand side, I think they combine pretty well together and pretty clever together. And then it's whether you play Gineppo maybe, or you play Sulemana. I think you can't play both of them, but I think you need one of those players that are a little bit unpredictable, that have a little bit of magic in them, that can do something out of nothing that Southampton may need today. So I think one of those two will play in one of the attacking areas. So defensively, I think it will be very, very similar. The two central midfielders are so reliable and play very, very well together in James Ward-Prowse and Lavia. I think they control that centre of the park when they're at their best, so they will play. And then it's the attacking areas. And Theo Walcott up front for me, because he has been very, very effective of late and had a real influence on the game, scored some goals, set some goals up. And his experience, I think, will be vital for today and the run-in for the rest of the season.
All right, so Dean expecting some changes. Adam, what about you? Do you think we'll see a different lineup to the team that faced Manchester City last weekend?
Well, I've just sat here while our team was talking thinking I really wish you'd have asked me first, because I completely agree with what Dean said, and all the notes I made about what I would do were basically exactly the same, more or less as what Dean said. I completely agree with him. I would 100% like to see Perraud back. I don't like the imbalance in the defence, and I don't really understand massively the justification for keeping it like that. Stuart Armstrong should 100% be back in the team for sure as well. I'm with Dean. I think you probably get Gineppo in as well. And the most important thing is whatever they do is that Saints are positive. They need to. You want to go down swinging if you're going to go. So that's what they need to do. Doesn't mean you go crazy and you go gung ho and you play two defenders from the start of a match. Of course, you're not going to do that. But actually, you play aggressive football. You're on the front foot. You're pressing. You're closing. You're doing those things that Saints do so effectively when they're at their absolute best. And you don't take that step back worrying, what if we concede a goal? What if we go behind? Will we actually be able to find a way back? What will happen in here? Is this crowd going to turn toxic? Or these kind of concerns. You've got to put them to one side now. Saints have got to be positive. That's their best chance of getting the number of wins that they're going to need to get out of the situation they're in. I appreciate why psychologically that might be easier said than done. If you're a player and you're feeling under massive pressure, you're playing in front of a crowd who are expectant and frustrated by where the team find themselves, the club find themselves right now. But I think that's the atmosphere that Sellés has to create. And I think a big part of that will be picking what is clearly a positive team, sending them out to play in a positive manner, worrying about themselves first and foremost, before they try and tinker around to cater for Palace's threats. Because this is a very winnable game for Saints, and where they are now, they can't afford to let these opportunities slip anymore. And the best way for them to do that, in my mind, is exactly what Dean said. It's just to be positive. And I think the changes that Dean underlined were exactly the ones that I had felt, very, very similar with. I think that is the best chance of going out there and getting a result, or at least giving yourself the best opportunity to get a result. Whether you do it or not remains to be seen, but you've got to give yourself every opportunity. And if Saints get too defensive, they sit back too much, they just won't do it. They've got to be positive. They've got to be on the front foot, and they've got to be going out to win the game.
Well, as mentioned at the top of the show, whatever team Ruben selects won't include Che Adams. This will be the third match in a row that he's missed. The manager talked about him during his press conference.
We haven't talked that much about missing Che Adams, but he was terrific as being a focal point for players to play off and play past, and for him to hold the ball up with his strength. Do you need more of that when he's not on the pitch from somebody else? Do you need that more, or can you play a different way without him? Because he's been a loss, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think it's not an excuse, but Shea obviously was one of our capital players. So to not being able to have him on the pitch, that means that we need to make some different approaches. Like for example, against City, to use Kamaldeen as a striker to try to find those spaces after the first pressure and the penetration from him. For tomorrow, we will need a different approach, or we will need a different profile in that position. So yes, it has been there and it is still there, but I think we have players that show that they can cover that position, and we can still perform and win football matches.
Well, Dean, Saints lost 1-0 at Selhurst Park earlier in the season. Do you think that the goal that settled it could have potentially been avoided?
Yeah, I think so, Kenzie. If you analyse it and you really look at it, which I'm sure the players did after the game, it actually starts okay. Lianco's very to James Ward-Prowse, but then just maybe has one or two touches that he doesn't need. But also, I would say he didn't have the options in front of him. Players were running away from him. Then James Ward-Prowse kind of gets caught in no man's land, where can he go to the ball and press it, or does he sit back and actually cover the space? Elyounoussi tries to recover but can't keep up with Mitchell, and needs to be a little bit stronger. Or if I'm honest, if I'm in that position, I'd probably foul him and give away that foul in that position. And then you look at the two centre-halves, they can't quite recover in time. Salisu needs to come across a little bit more. But actually, Shaleta is trying to play offside, where he just needs to get back into position. Salisu then pauses and he tries to play offside and then get back in position. So lots of individual errors, really. But it starts with, I think it's been a little bit of an issue this year with Lianco's on the ball. And because there's been that lack of consistency in team selection and the changes of shape all the time, it's been very hard for players to build relationships with each other and potentially understand how each other play and what benefits both. Lianco there is looking for an option to pass the ball in, where you've got the Southampton players running away. Now, you could say the players have been asked by the manager to run into the space, which means then Lianco needs to play the ball in behind. But if he's been told to try and play out from the back and build the play up, he needs an option. So I think that's where it starts from. And then it's just decision-making in those moments. It happens all very quickly, and it's easy for me to sit here and pick it apart. But defensively wise, you just got to protect the goal and then ask questions afterwards. I think in there was probably 2 or 3 opportunities for Southampton to prevent that goal from happening, and they didn't. They were a little bit naive and a little bit too nice, I think. And that, again, has been a little bit of the theme of defending this year. You can see that from the amount of goals we've conceded from set plays. You need to be aggressive in those moments. It needs to mean a little bit more to not concede goals. And I think that was a really good example of Southampton's season, really.
2 great chances for Shea in the second half, Adam, but does it kind of epitomise the season that he's been having? Because good work off the ball, but just lacks that clinical finish.
probably epitomises the season Saints are having, to be honest. And yeah, definitely for Shea, I think. Yeah, it's been a frustrating one for Shea. I mean, 5 Premier League goals in 25 appearances. It's not kind of what we were hoping for this year. I think we talked a lot at the very beginning of this season, about how this was probably his moment to step up, to lead the line for Saints, to be the main man for them this year. He's a big physical presence, as we know. He's strong, he's powerful, he's quick. But he's always at Saints kind of been in somebody's shadow, mainly Danny Ings, obviously. But this was the year for him, I think, to really break free, and it just hasn't quite happened for him. I think there's been a variety of reasons, some of which are probably concerned with some of the finishing that we're seeing in this particular game, and others that are kind of a little more beyond his control. But Saints, not in every game, but in many games, Saints have created chances. They have been dangerous this season. They're not one of these teams that are going down because they have no ability in the final third. The problem they've had is a lack of a clinical cutting edge to convert. And particularly in the really big games, the games you're playing against, the teams around you, where you might only get a couple of chances because it's tight. And when those chances come, you've got to take them, because they're the difference between winning those games or losing those games that you've got to do. And that's where Saints have really fallen down. And yeah, Shea definitely has been part of that, a victim of that, however you want to look at it. But it's not just him. It's not as if just the fact that Shea hasn't scored quite as many goals as we'd hoped this season is the reason they are where they are. But I'm pretty sure that if he reflects on his season right now, he'll be relatively disappointed, because it's not been what he or anybody else would have hoped for when the season kicked off.
Well, Dean, one big positive going into this one this afternoon is that Wilfried Zaha is missing. That's great news for the Saints, given the fact that he can and regularly does cause problems.
It is, Kenzie. I mean, he's Crystal Palace's star man. He's been that for a number of years now. He's a brilliant player. He really is. On his day, he's almost unstoppable, because physically he's very, very strong. He's quick. He's good with both feet. He can score a goal, as we're seeing. He gets assists as well, and he's really aggressive in his play. If someone's kicking him, he'll let them know. He uses his body very, very well. I think he's got 6 goals this season, 2 assists. He probably maybe expect a little bit more of himself, but on his day, he's so effective, and he's so good for this Crystal Palace team. I think the team is built around him. Every time they build up play, they try to get the ball to him as quick as they can to get him in those one-on-one situations. He loves playing on that left-hand side, but also he can play that central role and play up front on his own or with a partner. The goal, I think this was last season when the ball came to his feet. He shows his strength, but he's finished there as well. He knows exactly where he is on the pitch with that one touch. As soon as it comes into him, he wants to shift it and get his strike away. Here again, he shows his strength to get Lianco off the ball, and then that no-look pass to put Mitchell through to set the goal up for Crystal Palace. So he's going to be a miss for them. He really is. But Crystal Palace do have some good attacking players now. They really do. And they showed that last week with their 5-1 win against Leeds, which not many of us expected. A really good second-half performance. So they can be a threat without him. They can be dangerous without him. But you're right, Kenzie, they're a better team with him in the side. So that is one positive for Southampton today, definitely.
Well, there's a mere matter of seconds until the team news comes out this afternoon, but we'll go to what the fans are saying at home. Make sure to get your comments in throughout Saints Live. Julian Ayling-Rouse says this is a must-win today, so one for you, Adam. Also, Moses McSimon says, you've got the support, let's go Saints. Louise Bragg on Facebook has said, good luck, have fun, and make sure you defend well. Also, Mark Freer says, come on, lads, it's time to do the business. Very much, Mark. Nick Layton says it's now or never. Adam Saunders on Facebook says, must win again. Also, Tracy Smith, we need to win this game. Mario Niisi says that let's go, boys. And Kurt says, let's go, with a 100% mark.
Oh, I love that. Always great to hear from the fans. But the team news is now in, so let's get straight to that. Just the one change from the team that faced Manchester City last week. Joe Aribo in for Moi Elianusi. So let's take a look at that Southampton lineup in full then, shall we? In goal, it's Gavin Bazunu. The back four, Carl Walker-Peters, Armel Bella-Kotchap, Jan Bednarek and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. In the middle, it's our captain James Ward-Prowse and Romeo Lavia. The front four then is Kamaldeen Sulemana, Charlie Alcaraz, Theo Walcott and Joe Aribo. Quite how that will work remains to be seen. And the Southampton bench then is as follows: Alex McCarthy, Roman Perrault, Duje Shaletassar, Stuart Armstrong, Moi Elianusi and Musa Djenepo. So Adam, we'll come to you first then. You were speaking before the team news about the need to be positive, play on the front foot. You were perhaps expecting a few more changes. What do you make of this starting 11 today?
Well, I mean, I said earlier what I would do, so it's not the team I would have picked myself, but if I look at it and try and be objective and think, well, what are the real positives here? The one thing I would say, despite the fact I said I'd make changes, is that I don't think that Saints are going to come across a magic formula. Now, there's been a lot of changes in this team regularly. We pretty much have seen every combination of the players that are available that's imaginable in like a search to find something that might just work for a game, 2 games, and then beyond that. And we haven't really found that magic formula yet. None of the managers this season have found that consistent winning performing team. And so I guess if you're not going to find that, there is a positive to be said for having some consistency. And what I don't object to is if Ruben Selles sees these players in training and has just decided, actually, you know what, I just think this is my best team. Like, okay, I'm going to have to make the odd change here and there, obviously, but this is my best team. And so I believe in these more than the rest. So I'm just going to go with this now. And I'll stick with them through the next handful of games. These guys, if they're fit, they'll start. Because I think what Dean said earlier about the lack of consistency in the team has been an issue as well. So if that's kind of how Ruben Selles has looked at it, then I don't object to it. The only thing I object to is if it's kind of going to be this and then we're going to chop and change around again and again and again, in which case you're better off to just keep moving it around, I think, and try and keep trying. But if this is what he believes and these are his best guys, then great. If that's what he's found, stick with it. Stick with it, give them a few games together, give them a chance. And because let's be honest, it's not going to go considerably worse than it's gone so far this season. So you may as well stick with what you believe in.
Yeah, absolutely, Dean. I think that is a fair point, isn't it? Ruben Selles sees this squad day in, day out. Of course, he's going to field the team he thinks is going to keep us in the Premier League. What do you make of this starting 11 to take on Crystal Palace today?
Well, I think it's a really valid point that yourself and Adam have both made there. That Ruben Selles sees these players day in, day out. You see what players are fresh. You see what players are performing well, I'm sure. And I think I understand he's the type of manager that speaks to the players. So he'll know what kind of mental state they're in as well, in terms of their enthusiasm, the positivity, how they're feeling. And that's really, really important at this stage of the season and in such an important game as well. But also, look, the selection of the front four, I think that's the interesting part of how they're going to play and the way they're going to play. And also the impact that there's on the bench. There's a lot of creative players on the bench that can come on and have an impact, which is really, really important. We saw that last week against Man City with Mara coming on and Djenepo coming on. Now that's really important and can be effective if the game is 0-0. And that could be the case today if, the game is really, really tight and those 2 or 3 players come on, Stuart Armstrong again, and they make a little bit of a difference. So I think it's all how Southampton are going to approach the game. We'll find that out pretty quickly in terms of, are they going to press? Are they going to sit in the shape? Are they going to throw bodies forward? Are they going to be a little bit more conservative and then grow into the game, try not to concede and then try and win the game late on? That will be interesting to see. But I think there's pace in the team. I think there is goals in the team. Joe Aribo is an interesting selection. But again, that's probably because the manager's seen him in training. He might be doing something different now. He might just look a little bit sharper. He might be the one they've done a finishing practice and he scored 10 out of 10. And they just think, do you know what? Maybe putting him in now, he looks confident. He looks like he's got a point to prove, could have an impact, could change something. So really interesting to see. I'm with Adam. It's not the team I would have selected, but we've got to believe in what the manager is doing, have faith in him. And I'm looking forward to seeing this team perform today and win the game for Southampton.
Well, Southampton did get a win against Palace not so long ago in the FA Cup, 2-1. That was in January, Adam. That day, it was Patrick Vieira against Nathan Jones. Today, we've got Roy Hodgson against Ruben Selles. What did you make of Hodgson's sensational return to Palace at the age of 75?
Well, I mean, fair play to him. I don't know about you guys, but I hope to be retired by 75. I don't think I want to take on a stressful job at 75. But yeah, I mean, it's in Roy's blood, isn't it? He's been a manager for so long. He's obviously very, very popular at Crystal Palace. He's very popular among the fans. I get it. As an appointment, it really, if he was happy to come back and have another go, then it made perfect sense for them. He's a unifying force at the club. He's got huge amounts in the bank, if you like, amongst the fans, the players there. So yeah, in the position they were in, they couldn't win a game in this calendar year, don't forget, until he turned up. They had to probably felt like they had to do something. That they were in a funny position because it kind of felt like because they weren't winning, but because they done okay at the start of the season, they just kind of stayed in the same position more or less. And the teams that below them just kind of slowly but surely, very, very marginally sort of crept towards them. And I think that they saw the writing was on the wall that they were going to slip if they didn't do something. And so obviously Roy, I think, made a lot of sense, and fair play to him at 75 for the energy and enthusiasm and desire to come back. Because he's a guy who's got nothing to prove. It's not about the money for him at this stage in his career and his life. I'm sure he's got a lot of cash in the bank. So he's just doing it for the love of it, for the love of Palace, for the love of managing, for the thrill. Maybe this really will be the last time. So yeah, fair play to him for having the appetite for one last go at it. And from a Palace point of view, makes perfect sense. And given the start that he's had, the job is not done for them yet. They are not safe, but they're well on the way already. So it looks like he's going to do what he came in to do.
Yeah, certainly. What a man. Fair play to him. And of course, we know Dean's still going to be in the Saints Live hot seat at 75. That's just a given, isn't it? Let's cast our minds back, shall we, Dean? There wasn't too much to celebrate, was there, against Manchester City last weekend? But Sekou Mara's first Premier League goal was certainly a positive, and that was owed largely to Moussa Djenepo. I know Adam's spoken previously about the certain chaos he can bring to games, but when it works, it really works.
It does, Kenzie, and they both came on and had a real impact on the game. They made a difference. I mean, the skill for Djenepo to get past those 4 or 5 Man City players is exceptional, really. And he does possess that something special in those moments. And I think he's actually better in tighter areas when players get tight to him, because he's got quick feet and he's comfortable on both feet. It's brilliant, because in that moment, he could have got really excited and taken a shot on, but the better option was to pass to Mara. And Mara's finish is really good, lets it roll across his body and just passes it into the back of the net. And it's a real clinical finish. He almost follows the ball into the net, and that's what you're taught as a striker, follow the ball through. But we're seeing from Djenepo, he has some brilliant moments. He really, really does. We question at times the amount of goals he gets. We question the assist that he gets, and he gets into the good position and at times can waste the opportunity with an overhit pass or the wrong selection. But also he scores some wonderful goals. I mean, the goal we're going to see now against Man City is typical of him. He gets himself in a good position, receives it on a half turn, drives at the back 4 and just spots the keepers off his line. And it's a fantastic finish. It really, really is. And he scored some wonderful goals. And actually at the start of the season, he looked really comfortable at wing back as well on the left-hand side. And he's really aggressive when he tackles. He tries to win the ball back. So that unpredictability he has may be needed from now until the end of the season. And I think he will have an impact in some shape. And I think he'll have an impact today coming off the bench. And whether that's creating a goal, whether that's scoring a goal himself, but he has got something special. He just needs to be more consistent with it. And he needs to maybe find a manager that can consistently play him, keep faith in him so he gets that run of games and it will come out more and more. But he's still reasonably young. But yeah, he's got some fantastic ability.
Now, I'm sure we can all agree that one bit of good news over the last few days is that Tino Livramento made his return to the B team, getting some minutes on the pitch. Adam, it's been nearly a year since his injury, and although it will take him time to get back to his best, it's great for everyone that he's nearing a return.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen them move on to 33 points. They're probably feeling relatively safe now.
I think they probably are, Kenzie. I think maybe one more win and a draw would probably be enough for them. I think that would put them on 36, 37 points. But they look confident. The appointment of Roy Hodgson was a surprise. And I must admit, I'm not sure how it was going to go because Palace was struggling to score goals. And Roy Hodgson is not known for his more than getting a team organised, working off a really good shape, a really good structure. And they have done that, but they've scored 2 games, which is fantastic. And what they've done, Kenzie, is they've beaten the teams around them. You know, he's come in, they've beaten Leicester in his first game, and then they've beaten Leeds. His next 4 games as well, 5 games, is Southampton today, then it's Everton, then it's Wolves, then it's West Ham. So it's completely in their hands. You know, it's down to them really. So they're playing well at the moment, but they are in that position for a reason. They have their frail. They have lost games this season. They've been well beaten this season at times. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach the rest of the season. They could just take their foot off the pedal. You just never know because they feel as though they're safe. And hopefully that will happen today and it will benefit Southampton. But I would expect them now to stay in the Premier League. And it looks like the appointment of Roy Hodgson has been a really, really clever appointment by the football club.
Well, let's see what the Saints fans watching in around the globe are saying before kick-off. Sheen Bush says Southampton are going to win 1-0 against Palace with a James Ward-Prowse free kick. Peter on YouTube says we need to leave it all out there today. Peter as well says that Palace, Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth, we need 10 points from those games. Nasser says it's his birthday today and a win would mean the absolute world to him. Happy birthday. Owen says come on Aribo. Also Jonah says Aribo time, and Toby Aribo. Cameron Ward on Facebook says he's driving from Germany to Northern Ireland and hoping for a great result to boost his mood. And then one last one here from Rosemary Rickett, a regular of the show, who says another Saturday, another game, got to keep the faith in the boys, but it's a must win. Time is ticking by quickly. So on that, Adam, must win.
Thanks, Steve. That's the 3rd time you mentioned that in the show for me. Oh, well, I think if the question is is there a lot of hope for them if they don't win today? I think the answer to that is no. But this is a really crucial game for them. When you look at the 8 they've got and you look at what they've probably got to do from here, they probably have got to win 4 games as a bare minimum, and then they might need. It's possible they might need 5, or they might need to cobble together a couple of draws as well. When you've only got 8 games left, that's tight margins, and you look at your 8, and you've got to be realistic and say this is one of the ones that is very winnable. When you look at the 8, there are 4 there that you look at and you think, yeah, they are quite winnable. So like all faith is not extinguished yet, but it's going to be hard, because I think if you don't beat Palace today, then you suddenly look at the games and you think, to not get cut adrift, and once you get cut adrift, then it's very psychologically hard to get the wins. It doesn't become a mathematical equation anymore. You're then realistically thinking you've got to go and beat Arsenal or Newcastle, and that is going to be extremely hard. They're the kind of games where if you're going to stay up, if you get that plucky bonus draw out of one of those, then you're absolutely delighted, because you're getting your wins against kind of the weaker teams in the division, the teams around you. Yeah, we're in fine margins territory now for Saints. We're in last chance saloon, if you like, and so this is massively important. It's not the end if they don't win, of course it's not, but it becomes very hard to see them staying up.
Yeah, it's just such an enormous match, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the pre-match nerves have already kicked in. Dean, let's come to you then for your final thoughts ahead of kick-off and your score prediction today, please.
Well, I agree with Adam. I think if we don't win today, I think the players could lose that little bit of hope and that belief. So it's such an important game. But I've got a good feeling about this. And I think sometimes as a player before the game, when you know you just have to win, I think it almost becomes a little bit easier in terms of your approach. Doesn't make the result easier, but in terms of your approach, you're just all out to win the game. And I think we can maybe see that from the team selection as well. So I'm looking for that high energy, that willingness to create chances from Southampton today. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Southampton win.
All right, 2-1 for Dean. And Adam, what about you then? I mean, surely a Saints win, because we've got Lucky Leach with us.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about the games beforehand, and I thought the last game I did was the Everton win, but then I remembered actually I did the Chelsea win. That was the last game I did. So surely it's got to be a Saints victory, right? I mean, I was going to, obviously, as I always say, I was going to go for what Dean said, because it kind of gives me 2 predictions, and I can pretend that I'm really hard done by. But to be honest with you, if they won today, I wouldn't care less what the scoreline was, frankly. Yeah, I actually think today might be quite a cagey game. I agree with what Dean said in terms of like the way Roy Hodgson sets up his teams. They have scored some goals, but I don't think they're a team that is going to continue to be prolific all the time. They're away from home. They probably feel like they're kind of almost there. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot in it today. I think it will be close, but I've got to go for Saints, so I'll have to go 1-0, I think.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully you are today. Dean and Adam, thank you so much for joining us again on Saints Live. Well, it is a huge afternoon here at St Mary's as Southampton take on Crystal Palace. A win for the Saints would give them a huge boost in their fight for Premier League survival. Anything less and they could be cut adrift from the battle at the bottom. Either way, we'll all be back along with Dean and Adam on the final whistle with the post-match reaction and analysis. So we'll see you then.
Bye for now.